Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
Curious what the narrative's going to be now about the Oregon football team.
Did they get another unranked win?
Another unranked win. You know, you just can't get out of your own way, folks.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, Melissa Lombardi, Yogi Roth, who've said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
What's amazing to me is we're talking about a 10-1 team that's 7-1 in the Big Ten, like they're underdogs.
I know.
It's like, wow, how did that happen?
And some smiles.
No, I really put some effort in there.
And there was no try, there was just do, and you did. So no, I was
Yoda.
because
It's Danny Havel.
I mean, it's wave after wave after wave after wave of talent. That's good coaching. That is that whole culture, next man up attitude.
Justin Grossweiner.
I can't believe I'm saying this. Thank God for the Beavers. They saved the weekend for me.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Sitting in for Danny today, it's Goose, Steve Mims.
Welcome into the Danny and Justin show on a Wednesday afternoon. This is Goose filling in for Danny, who was chauffeured to the airport a few hours ago by Justin. Justin, was there a police escort to get Danny there? I know he's very important. There was not. It was you fighting traffic yourself?
It was just me, myself, and I. I texted him when I got there. I said, your chariot has arrived. And took him and his wife to the airport. Everything was all smooth. I think they're in the air now. I tried to call him 15 minutes before the show, and he was not available. So I'm guessing he's in the air. I think he might be listening up in the air, though, at how many thousand feet is it?
We'll manage our P's and Q's here then.
Yes.
Danny is on his way to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, where your Oregon Ducks will be taking on the Indiana Hoosiers Friday at 4:30 Pacific time. We can announce now that for folks looking for an extended preview of that game, you are going to be hosting a 3-hour pregame show previewing that game from noon to 3 o'clock.
Correct.
So instead of just the Danny and Justin show Friday from 2 to 3, there's going to be a noon to 3 extended Danny and Justin show to preview the game.
I'm going to pretend to be Doug Gottlieb for 2 hours.
There you go. But he's not on the air anymore.
I know. I'm just kidding. No, it's going to be fun. We've got a lot of cool guests available for us. Dave Revson is going to be, he's confirmed already, as well as Adam Rittenberg. George Reister should be with us as well. So it'll be a fun 3 hours. It's going to be me, myself, and Cam Derby.
Yeah.
I'm excited to.
Former KEZI star.
Yeah. And I'm excited to work with him. And it's certainly a lot to talk about with a huge week. And, you know, there's other sports going on, too, besides Oregon football. But certainly there's a ton going on right now to talk about with Oregon football.
Yeah, as I was preparing to come in and fill in for Danny today, I thought you guys called this the fastest 60 minutes in radio, and today is going to be that.
It will be.
Heck, there was a Cubs trade today. I mean, back in the summer, that would have been like a whole segment with you.
I know.
Edward Cabrera has been traded to the Cubs for Owen Cassie and a couple other prospects.
Yeah, Owen Casey, he's our top prospect, and I like him. He's got some good raw power. A lot of strikeouts, though. They did seem to have interest in getting another starting pitcher. I would argue that they're losing Kyle Tucker, so maybe they could use a bat as well.
Yep.
But they are trading Casey, who is an outfielder. Yep. So it is an interesting move. He seems like he's a good pitcher. I don't know much about him. The Cubs' way is to get a guy that throws about 91, 92 miles per hour with stuff.
Yep.
He doesn't seem like one of those guys. He seems to throw hard, which is more my forte. And I think that's what Major League Baseball does now. You throw hard.
You throw hard, not Greg Maddux.
Yeah, a lot going on, including with my Cubs.
With your Cubs. Again, sometimes we would have led this. There was a ridiculously impressive comeback from the Oregon women's basketball team last night, beating USC. I stayed up and watched it, and that will be segment 3 today. We will get into Kelly Graves' team coming from an 18-point deficit. Basically, Ari Long just finding range to lead a 14-0 finish to beat the number 21 team in the country, which is pretty amazing. So we will get into Oregon women's basketball in the third segment. Second segment, Tyson Alger is going to be with us from Lookout Eugene-Springfield, friend of the program, former road dog of mine, travel partner on the Oregon basketball and football beats. So looking forward to, as long as Tyson's not had any travel issues today, we should be having him up in about 20 minutes. But to kick it off, it's Oregon football, And the conversation du jour is Jordon Davison. And yesterday I was listening to the program as you and Danny, the news had just kind of broke from Aaron Fentress that it looked like Jordon Davison was going to be out. I know there was some skepticism on the part of
Danny's
folks
always
saying,
very skeptical. Anything will come out, and I am too, to be fair. But it did just seem so on brand for Oregon. And I was trying to remember yesterday the exact players, but I remember for sure Kayvon Thibodeau against Ohio State, as well as Evan Stewart last year against Ohio State. All of a sudden, things come out of nowhere, and it's these unknowns on message boards, but then it turns out to be real.
You want to know what the biggest one was?
National championship game with all the receivers, right?
Darren Carrington. Remember the Darren Carrington suspension? He has like 7 catches for 130 in the Rose Bowl win over Florida State. And 2 days later, it's like, by the way, Darren Carrington's been suspended for the national championship game. And it's like, what? And that one there. And also in that one, it was Devin Allen, the other receiver, gets injured on a kickoff return in that Rose Bowl and misses it. But you're right. So there's been a lot of that. My thought was, there are some hot take people out there. Aaron Fentress isn't one of those. Fentress loves hot takes, don't get me wrong, and I can say this knowing Aaron, but when it comes to reporting facts and things like that, I knew he wasn't, just hearing something or throwing something out of the air. So I felt like that was going to be the case. I love these injury reports 3 days before the game. I love the fact that teams now have to put out this information, and Oregon did confirm that Jordon Davison is out. So that leads us to wonder about the Oregon running backs for this game against Indiana. We have Noah Whittingham. Is it Whittingham?
Whittington.
Gosh, I always get that Kyle Whittingham.
Kyle Whittingham,
I always get those two mixed up. In fact, I'm going to write it down right now. Whittington, right?
Yes, Whittington.
Okay. Noah Whittington, De'Aaron Hill Jr., and TBD.
Yep, basically.
There's talk that Jay Harris, who's in the portal, maybe comes back to play in that game. Although I would think if that was the case that Jaden Lamar would do the same.
Well, that's what I was confused about, is why, if you're going to have an opportunity to play in a national semifinal and you can still enter the portal, why you would leave right now?
Unless you have a team that says, hey, here's how much we're paying you, but if you go play in this game and get injured, that deal's off the table. And maybe Jaden Lamar says, maybe, let's just throw out North Texas, said, hey, we like you, Jaden, $400,000 to come play for us next year. And he knows he's not getting that at Oregon, but they say if there's an injury, anything happens, and he just says, hey, I gotta protect myself here. So that would be the reason. I'm also curious, and I wish, and if there's any media members out there listening to the show, and I know you are, and maybe you have asked Dan Lanning this before, and if you have, call in on the Oregon Man Clinic hotline and let us know. I want to know, does Oregon, I've been told that Dan Lanning, and I think it was Eric Scopel that told me when he was here, that Lanning's policy is once you're in the portal, you're gone. You're free to go in the portal if you want, but we're not going to do any portaling and playing for Oregon. If you go in the portal, you're kind of saying you're gone, and that's sort of his hard and fast rule. That would be different from Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham at ASU talked about how, hey, and then he wasn't in a playoff game. It was just a Sun Bowl. But he said, hey, guys who are going in the portal, we're going to let them play because we look at this Sun Bowl as being this year's team, not next year's team. So I'm curious if Lanning's rule is, in fact, that once you're in the portal, you're gone. And if that's the case, he hadn't gone in the portal yet because it hadn't opened yet, but Austin Novosad had said he was going, and he was on the roster for the Texas Tech game. Now, the next day, the portal opened, and I think the reports from media this week has been that they have not seen Novosad at practice. So maybe that would follow along the idea that once you're in, you're gone. Jay Harris, same thing, we would think, although folks said they saw him at practice on Monday, so maybe he didn't go into the portal till later. That's my clarification I want, and maybe with Tyson I'll ask him. I just don't know that I've heard anybody ask Dan or if Dan's put that out there. But it would be interesting for me to know, if you're in the portal, are you gone, or does Dan Lanning have hey, if you want to stick around for a couple weeks while negotiating, but maybe as the player and the agent says, hey, we can't negotiate this if you're still playing in the game because they're going to put some contingencies on it.
I guess the question would be then, if you're Dan Lanning, at what point do you look at the situation?
Alter your, yes. As new information comes in, new plans are in. Absolutely. Yeah. And if Jay Harris says, hey, I'll come back, maybe you say, yeah, because if Noah Whittington, God forbid, turns an ankle on the first drive and suddenly you're like, okay, we're down to, De'Aaron Hill and a walk-on, that could, new information could change it there, certainly. But for now, it's Noah Whittington and it's De'Aaron Hill. We've lost kind of that thunder and lightning. I think Jordan Davis was the thunder. I'm curious to see how much it changes Oregon's offense I mean, they for the most part, you can survive with 2 backs, and Whittington's a 3-down back.
Absolutely.
Both are kind of 3-down backs. Whittington, a better receiver than Hill. But both, I mean, you could alter your offense to where you can go with just those 2. Again, nightmare 1 is if one of them gets hurt and now you're down to 1. The other thing is these guys, De'Aaron Hill he's got 70 carries, I think, this year, which is 5 a game.
So I did the numbers on this.
Okay.
I looked at I looked at the carries. So Oregon averages 37 carries per game this year, okay?
So that's 20 and 17 now for these 2.
Well, so I looked, and the career high for Noah Whittington is, do you know what it is?
18.
It is 20 in 2022 against Washington. He also has a 19-carry game earlier this season. I want to say it was against Rutgers, maybe. He has a 19-carry game this season. Do you want to know what De'Aaron Hill's career high is?
Well, he's only got 70 on the season, so is it like 10?
It's 10 against Penn State.
Okay.
So
Which is a pretty good 10.
That's a pretty good 10. He had 82 yards and 2 touchdowns, I think, in that game. So what does that make it? So that's 30, right? Mm-hmm. If maybe you're going to stretch it a couple carries each way, you're going to give 25 carries to Noah Whittington, maybe 12 carries to De'Aaron Hill Jr.
Yep.
At that point, I think maybe you might see some more designed runs by Dante Moore. I don't think they necessarily want to do that, but I think that when desperate times call for desperate measures, and then barring a Jay Harris being in there as well, I've started to think outside the box. If you have a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1, and you're just going to not mess around and just pound it up the middle, I'm thinking of guys that I want that can be back there. Mateo. The other one is Kenyon Sadiq.
Tuioti was a good running back at Sheldon.
And that's the thing. You have to start thinking about guys that have that experience.
Yeah.
So I legitimately think you might see something like that in this game if they have to get a situation, because Dante's not the kind of guy you really want to put under center and do like a quarterback sneak.
Yeah. And you could also do, and we've seen, sort of some of those in the Chip Kelly era, there was a lot of kind of dump passes that were basically runs, but just kind of, you could have Sadiq line up and take a couple steps back, catch a pass, and suddenly it's sort of a run play, but just with the guy catching the ball. So I'm with you, I think. And I mean, it was me and you doing a show, I want to say it was right after Penn State, and because Oregon was going in the bye, and I think your prediction, and maybe mine at the time, was RB1 has been determined, and it's De'Aaron Hill Jr. We've seen this. This is moving there forward. This is De'Aaron Hill Jr. Didn't happen.
No.
It was not him, and he, in fact, has been RB3. But maybe the idea is, look, this guy's only had 70 carries. He's only been hit a certain number of times. With only 2 games left in the season, maybe this is the time you can ramp him up to 15 or 17 and say, hey, he's pretty fresh all year long. This isn't week 5 where now we got to suddenly manage him for 2-3 months. Maybe with 2-3 games, you tell De'Aaron, hey, we're going to give you this thing as many times. If we can get you up to 17 or 20, if you need to come out, if you're feeling, a little weary down or anything like that. But this might be the time to tell him, hey, man, the touch limit's off, the pitch count's off. We're going to kind of lead you out there and give some series to you, and some of them may result in 5-6 carries at a time. And we'll kind of monitor and see how you're doing, and we'll talk to you. But if you can maybe suddenly come out and have that 20-carry game, that opportunity is going to be there for you.
Well, they had the luxury where they could just put him out there for 5 to 10 carries per game and make the best out of him. But I completely agree with you. I think this is the situation now where all season long you've been keeping these guys fresh, but
only 2 left.
Exactly. And if you lose this game, there's only 1 left, right? So don't keep those carries on the sideline. I also think that something that might happen, one of the problems I think with getting De'Aaron Hill out there as much as he is, or he potentially as much as we were talking about, is his pass protection. I know that Noah Whittington, he's a pretty good pass protector. I think that Jordon Davison, he's their best pass protector. But I think that would maybe be my concern with having a De'Aaron Hill Jr. out there a ton. I think that maybe the counter to that, if you're going to be in obvious passing situations and you don't want to have, for some reason, either one of those guys out, maybe you put a Sadiq in the backfield for pass protection, and then he's also a guy that you have to keep an eye out as well. Asaya Paga, like somebody in the backfield just to be a big body and block, because quite frankly, the tough thing about this whole situation is this. If you're just facing off against any of these, normal Big Ten teams, or it's just a ranked opponent, I'd say, you know what, Oregon's going to be fine. But when it comes to this Indiana team, you can't be figuring it out on the fly. It just seems like you're putting yourself in a really, really bad situation. So I would expect them to. I wouldn't be surprised if De'Aaron got a bunch more carries. I remember exactly what you're talking about. I said something along the lines of, let's stop messing around.
Yep.
He's the best guy.
Yep.
That being said, though, pass protection is a huge part of this as a whole. So I could see that being a part of the factoring of how much these guys get run and how much they're on the field.
I'm going to give you a cross-sport comparison that I thought of as you were saying that.
Okay.
This is like baseball playoffs. Hey, the starter, he's going in games 1, 4, and 7. Normally we throw him on 4 days rest. We're going 3 days rest because there's only 2 series left. Or we're bringing Mad Bum out for the game 7 for 6 innings in the bullpen, even though he threw 90 pitches 3 days ago. That's sort of what you're doing here is you're telling Dier, hey, we're going to run you as far as you can go. Again, if you're not feeling well or you don't got it in you, let us know. But if you're looking fresh out there, there's only 2 left. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna run the pedal to the metal on this thing at that point.
Yeah,
so
I'll give you
think
another
that
one.
could be
Aroldis Chapman in the World Series when he pitched like 3.5 innings or 3 innings in Game 5, and then he pitched in Game 6, and then he gave up the big home run to Rajai Davis in Game 7. I agree. I think you basically go out there and you say, Dier, this is your time to shine. He's had some run, like you're let loose. And quite honestly, we've talked about this all season long, that their entire running back room could probably be starter on the team.
Yeah.
And so you still have 2 guys. Let's not forget, these 2 guys are very, very good. But what you're talking about, which I think is very valid, is the fact that you don't have the Thunder and the Lightning. That sort of seems to me where against a team like Indiana, you're going to want to have the ability to do what you want and not be limited by something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No doubt. So that will be an interesting one there to watch and just see how this thing goes. I also kind of trust Dan Lanning and Shard Samples and the folks that, hey, if, you can manage over 2 games and you can kind of work on the fly, and Will Stein, you can kind of change some things around. Again, this isn't, hey, we got 5 more games to get through. How are we going to do it? This is sort of now game to game. So I think they can pull that one there. Before we go to break, I want to touch on the news that broke last night in college football, which was DeMond Williams, Washington quarterback. I know fans around here are really sad that Washington football is in a state of crisis. DeMond Williams, who apparently signed a $4 million NIL rev share agreement on Friday, decided on Tuesday night to announce that he was going in the portal with all rumors that he is going to LSU. It's been the news of the day, and it's got all these college football people who are, just panicking about guardrails somewhere in terms of NIL, wondering where the guardrails are coming from. But it's fascinating to watch in a couple things, and I'm going to tie this in quickly to an Oregon thing. So just kind of follow me through this. The DeMond Williams thing came out that the thought was LSU came and said, hey, he had been recruited to Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. That Lane Kiffin decided that's the guy he wants but it was weird because Lane Kiffin was hosting Sam Levitt at a basketball game at the time. Mm-hmm. So, but then the rumor comes that Lane Kiffin tells DeMond Williams, come here. So DeMond says, I'd rather be at LSU. I'm going there. That's what the people are thinking now. So then why is Sam Levitt there? Well, maybe Sam Levitt, because then the word came out afterwards. By the way, Sam Levitt's going to Tennessee tomorrow to visit, with the idea that it sounds like he's probably going to be in Miami on Saturday or Sunday to visit there. And I think there's still a thought in this world that Sam Levitt's ideal ending would be at Oregon if Dante Moore goes, because he's a kid who started at Westview, ended up at West Linn.
Right.
So the idea is, hey, maybe Sam's kind of putting Lane Kiffin off and saying, hey, well, I'm going to a couple other places. I'll get back to you. And Lane says, to heck with this. I need my guy. I'm going to DeMond Williams. So with all that in mind, I'm wondering if this is all a long play for Sam Levitt trying to get to Oregon, saying, hey, I know that Dante Moore's not going to make a decision until Oregon loses. So if I stretch this thing out, at least if they lose now to Indiana, maybe a decision comes. And if I go to Miami over the weekend, I can put off Oregon until Tuesday. We can give Dante Moore some time because he wants to come here. Or if the thought is that Oregon says, even if they advance to the title game, hey, Dante, we got to kind of know what you're going to do because we do have to plan for next year. And if you wait until after the national title game, all the quarterbacks are out of the portal. And maybe this is the Levitt idea that, hey, I'm going to kind of slow play this thing to try to get to Oregon, knowing that at worst case, Tennessee will take me, Miami might take me type thing. That's my little tinfoil hat that I put on last night when I heard this. Your thoughts on the DeMond Williams, Sam Levitt, any part of what I just said?
As far as let's travel to the Oregon part of it, I think that in terms of their quarterback room, I think that what's interesting is they haven't hedged their bets at all. They haven't brought in a guy that's the sort of, hey, if you don't start, then you're not going to, it's not the end of the world for you, but you feel pretty comfortable if you have this guy out there. They've got guys that we have no idea how good they are under Dante Moore. So, Austin Novosad, obviously we knew, but he's going to be gone. So I definitely think that it's interesting that Oregon, if Dante leaves, they're going to need somebody. And for Sam, I mean, obviously he's an Oregon kid, so it makes sense for if he wants to go be an Oregon Duck. So I could see the tea leaves there. As far as DeMond Williams goes, I definitely think it's interesting that this is happening in the way that it is and the timing that it is because of the fact that he just re-signed. And all of a sudden, I mean, this isn't necessarily anything new about the fact that guys sign contracts and they're still looking to see what's best out for them. Yeah. So for Washington, this really sucks. I mean, Washington is just totally looking for answers now because that was their guy. I think he still has 2 years left of eligibility, does he not?
Yeah. And maybe they're calling Sam Levitt. Maybe Washington's calling Sam.
I mean,
and again, that might be Sam Levitt's plan here is just kind of let as many teams be up in the air and let the bidding go up. Maybe LSU said $5 million. And he's like, I'm going to go to Tennessee because they might say 6 and Mario might say 7. And by the time I get to Oregon and Washington, we might be up to 8. Maybe Sam's just playing this thing perfectly as you know, because most of the other quarterback musical chairs have found spots. There's not many of them. Ty Simpson today went into the NFL draft, so he's no longer a portal possibility. We've seen, the Kentucky guy went to ASU, and Kentucky got the Northern. There's kind of most of these places have hit now. We haven't seen DJ Lagway yet, but that's kind of the only other one. So I think with him and Levitt again, if there's musical chairs and there's 5 chairs left, there's 2 good quarterbacks. That might be these guys' plan is to sit there and wait and see. And again, with Oregon, maybe they're getting some hints, and maybe Oregon's saying, "Hey, give us a couple more days. If we get past the we've made it the national title game, Dante's told us he'll at least give us a decision by the end of the weekend. So if you can give us till next week, let us keep in this bidding possibly."
I would say, just putting myself in Dante's shoes, I could see a world where if he makes it to the championship game, that's enough for him to go, you know what, this is my shot. I think I know that I'm basically... I mean, if he wants to win a championship in college, that's probably... You would love to see Oregon get to the national championship game 2 years in a row, but just the idea of that is very hard to see, plus the idea that he is going to be a top NFL draft pick. I would assume he would go then. I feel like, in a way... I mean, I guess I could ask this as a question. Does Oregon, the fact that they haven't done anything... maybe indicate in a way that they think maybe he might come back?
Yeah, you can read tea leaves.
Because they haven't done anything else. No. I mean, if you look at...
But you also can't bring in somebody and then be like, hey, he's our backup contingency, because these guys in the portal are all going to a place where they're being told they can start. But Oregon's
so, on top of things. They're so smart with what they do with their roster. It just seems like either they know something that we don't, or, I don't know, he's coming back, or they already have the Sam Levitt in their back pocket or something like that. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like Oregon's going to be caught with their pants down.
Well, I hope not. I hope that for everybody in this world. All right, we're going to head into a break. I told you this was going to be a fast 60 minutes. We're going to go to a break. We come back with Tyson Alger. We will continue this conversation about Oregon's quarterback in 2026 with Tyson Alger of Lookout Eugene, and we will get into some other things as well. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show on 1050 AM KORE, Fox Sports Eugene, 92.7 KNCU, Fox Sports Newport. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny, who is on a bird with Zach Neal flying to Atlanta, Georgia for the Peach Bowl. And Atlanta had better look out, because tomorrow, Lookout is heading their way when Tyson Alger makes his flight on the bird. No word if Tyson or his father will be flying that plane, but Tyson is on his way. You know him from Lookout Eugene-Springfield, my old travel partner on the Oregon football and basketball beat. Tyson, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good, Steve. Though I will say these long trips and with the media banquet rooms and parties that they have it's not quite the same without you there, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it. I will say, when I see people talking about media parties and I tend to see itineraries, I do get a little tear in my eye that I like the old Alamo Bowl media room after a 31-point blown lead. That was a fun one. We had beers through the rest of the night and a couple other spots. So if I missed, I appreciate it. And believe me, I miss being there as well.
Well, the thing is, the one thing that you do avoid, though, is you never want people talking about, hey, you remember what you did at the last media party? And I got a little bit of that this year. So, you know what, I tried to keep it in check this season.
Good. Like I say, I don't want to have Zach Neal on next week and have to ask him if he can give me a report on what Tyson did at the media party and have to have some rumors being spread. All right. Hey, who's running back wise for Oregon? The Jordon Davison news came down yesterday. Big deal, little deal, or no deal?
I think it's a deal. It's funny because the way the season started, I feel like for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you could have, rolled a die with one Oregon player assigned to each side of it, and that would have been the guy to lead them in carries that week, right? Like it felt like just each week there was a new face there, and whether it was like a returner like Noah Whittington or some of the freshmen like Davidson or Jaden Lamar or Deir Hill, you were just like, boy, like they have depth here for days, and they've really been able to kind of utilize that throughout the year, even with Davidson becoming the kind of the de facto breakout number one guy next to Whittington. But, over the last 2 weeks, between the guys who've left in the portal, between Davidson's injury here, all of a sudden you're kind of left with two dudes. And I think that's concerning to an extent, just because, you're looking at the potential of a 14, 15, 16 game season, and there's depth for what schedules used to look like, and then there's depth for winning the national championship. And I think you definitely need all hands on deck. But the one saving grace here is Noah Whittington's a really good running back. He's a physical running back. He's a veteran. He's played in big games like this before. And Deir's been great too, and he's different than Noah. I think at least the benefit that you have here is you have two running backs who are a little bit different in styles and what they can do. So in terms of what you can expect from Oregon's running back production, like if they're healthy, I think we're still going to get pretty good play out of these two guys. But just what worries me is what should worry anybody this far into the season. It's just like, okay, this is your depth now. Can you keep it there? Can you beat Indiana and be able to bring those two guys in healthy another week after that? But, obviously that Indiana thing is a big if there.
I'm going to give you a scenario. So Oregon, game on the line, it's 4th and 1. You can't choose one of the running backs. You can't choose either Deir Hill Jr. or Noah Whittington. Who do you put back there as the running back to get that 1 yard?
What yard line are we on here?
This is 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. You need to get a touchdown here.
I'm bringing out James Ferguson Reynolds. We're faking the punt at the 1 yard line, and we're either just going to roll him out or we're going to have him do one of those little shovel passes of his. If it's 4th and 1 from the 1 in that scenario, I'm going to go with Noah, just because I've seen him truck some dudes over his career. I think that's really probably where you do miss a Davidson the most, because if you remember, for the first 5-6 weeks of the season, I think he had 8 touchdowns on 6 carries, something ridiculous like that. So, that's where they'll miss him. But I also think that's where having a big physical back like Whittington is helpful. But if you can't go those two, I do like the break in case of emergency Kenyon Sadiq button.
Yeah.
I'd just give him the ball in just about any situation.
Yeah, and I was saying, I think Tatum Tuioti was an all-state running back when he was at Sheldon, so he's out there. And as long as, everybody's getting extra years of eligibility, if we could get Colt Laer, remember that Colt Laer year where they had 6 carries and 5 touchdowns for him? So that would be another goal line option if we could find Colt out there somewhere. I don't know where he's at.
We don't need to go look.
Move on to that one.
Yeah, Colt Laer is not a great topic.
That could be the next story. The Tyson tracks down Colt Laer.
But I mean that is a good poll though, in terms of in thinking about Sadiq's season and the athleticism that he's produced, and you kind of go boy, this guy is kind of a once in a lifetime or generation type of talent, but he does have a lot of the same physical. I mean, we were saying a lot of this stuff about Colt before his career and life started going sideways. So here's hoping Kenyon has a better after Oregon arc than Colt did.
Yeah. Do you see, obviously, Fernando Mendoza threw the pick to Finney and then came back and let him down in the touchdown drive and kind of picked apart Oregon. Do you see Oregon's defense either just personnel-wise in a better position to slow him down, or do you think that Fernando Mendoza challenge remains as tricky as it was the first time when he came to Autzen?
I think it still remains really tricky. The tough thing about this Indiana team, too, is I you can make the argument Oregon's better than they were then, but I think Indiana's gotten better too. I know they've won every game they've played this year, and Mendoza's been good enough week in and week out to win the Heisman, but I do think that was a big kind of mental game for them. It was a year after they had that great season last year, but it was okay, who'd you play, who'd you beat, how'd you do in those big games? For them to be able to come in, and I know Mendoza wasn't here last year, but for them to be able to come in with that Indiana team and beat Oregon out of Oregon, that was the best win in college football this year. And I think that builds confidence. I think you can build upon that. So I expect Indiana to come in more confident, more comfortable. I expect them to come in fierce. And Mendoza's just, it's so fun watching him because he doesn't necessarily dazzle or wow you, but this isn't one of those quarterbacks that's going to run out of the pocket and rush for 60 yards downfield, but he's big enough and he's athletic enough to keep plays alive. He's always keeping his eyes downfield, and I think that's just really kind of what gutted Oregon in the last game is the Ducks got Indiana into third down a lot, but when they're in 3rd and 5, they have so many options, and whether that's Mendoza finding the completion or actually, being able to step up and pick up that first down with his legs, he's a challenge. But the one thing I will come back to is Oregon didn't have a bad defensive effort in that game. They did allow 30 points to a team that scored way more than 30 points a game this year. They were in it until the last 5 minutes of that game. I think that's what people forget is that was a one possession game in the fourth quarter. And I will sit here and say Indiana soundly beat Oregon that game. Indiana deserved to win. Indiana was the better team, but Oregon was still right there. This wasn't a blowout. This wasn't Alabama, or this wasn't Indiana punking Alabama at the Rose Bowl, right? These were two really good football teams, and Mendoza might be the best player on the field, but the Ducks were able to bruise them up a little bit in that game, and especially if they can force another turnover and even better take advantage and score some points on one like they did with Finney's interception in that game. I think the Ducks are right there in this one.
Dante said that he was a little hurried, rushed up in that game because some of the hype. Last week, Texas Tech, Oregon kind of played with their food a little bit, and wasn't real sharp on offense. I talked to somebody this week who pointed out that the Indiana game, they scored 20, but that includes a pick 6, so that's 13. Iowa was, 18. Penn State, when we thought they were a good defense, Oregon gets to, 23, but that includes overtime. Texas Tech this week, Oregon gets to 23, but that includes a last-second run. Is there a concern that this offense, when facing good defenses, which Indiana has, we've seen Oregon put up some, typical Oregon offensive numbers in a lot of games, but it does feel like the tougher defenses they've played have kept them, at least offensively, into that kind of, 17 to 24 range. Is there a thought that maybe Oregon's going to have trouble getting beyond that just whenever they face these tough defenses? Is there enough proof of what we've seen so far this year?
Yeah, it's fascinating because I don't think Dante was the offensive MVP of the Orange Bowl, and I don't think he thought he was going to be either, judging by his reaction when they announced him up on that podium. But he was fine in that game. He did what they needed to do for the Ducks to win, and he largely took care of the football until a little bit in the second half. But I just think that he's very, very, very good when he's confident, when he's calm, and when he has protection. And I think the biggest issue in that Indiana game was he was just under duress a ton. They threw a bunch of different looks that they weren't prepared for. He had little time in the pocket, and that really accelerated Dante's clock. And for as talented as this guy is, I think sometimes we do forget that he just didn't have a whole lot of experience in these types of games. And I think he's gotten his feet wet. He kind of went through that tough month of October through mid-November where it was a mixture of tough defenses, bad weather, the broken nose he suffered, and the fact that you, me, and Justin, I think are 3, 4, and 5 on the wide receiver depth chart. There's some reasons for why they didn't score points, and there's just some growing pains too. But I think the two biggest keys for the Ducks in this game are just the offensive line playing better than they did the last time they played Indiana. And also Oregon's just got to find some explosive plays out there. They can be very highly efficient in the way that they throw the ball, but a lot of the times it's kind of paper cuts. It's a lot of jabs that then eventually set up an uppercut. And we just, even in this Texas Tech game where they were never really in danger of losing, afterwards I was trying to sit back and think of where were the explosive plays in this game? And you just didn't really see them a ton, and I think you're absolutely going to need them against Indiana because their defense is too sound to just try to put together 11, 12, 13-play scoring drives.
Do you think this could be one of those games where Oregon, I don't know if they feel the need to go, I don't know if gimmicky is the right word, but to run some trick plays? I mean, you're kind of already trying to figure some things out with your running back room. Like, do you think this could be an opportunity, even against a really good, well-coached team, where you might throw out a trick play at a big time?
Yeah, potentially. The one thing about that, though, is, like, I imagine other teams are probably pretty prepared for that at this point with Oregon and Dan Lanning's MO. Not that Oregon's been throwing out a ton of necessarily, like, 1 through 3rd down trick plays, but this is a team that will, fake a punt. This is a team that will surprise you with an onside. This is a team that will throw it too many defenders onto the field and hope they get away from it. Like Oregon's always looking for like a little bit of an edge there. So I think if the right play and situation arises, but I think the Ducks also have to be a little bit guarded against that because, Dan Lanning has a reputation. It's a reputation of being aggressive as going for the win. And Oregon, especially, boy, I wish Ferguson Reynolds had like 10 more years of eligibility because I could watch him fake punt or punt or whatever he does, and then come in and talk about it in that Australian accent. I could do that any day of the week, boys.
Well, they just got out of the portal another Aussie, so the good news is that you'll still get that accent if this guy can pull off some of those as well.
That's perfect.
He is Tyson Alger. Look out Eugene-Springfield. Tyson, before I let you go, I'm going to give you. I just had a tinfoil hat theory that I threw at Justin on this whole DeMond Williams thing that, hey, last night, my theory is Lane Kiffin's sitting there with Sam Levitt. Levitt tells him, hey, I'm not ready to commit yet. I think there's a long play if Sam Levitt wants to get to the weekend, see if Dante Moore's coming back, if Oregon loses. Lane Kiffin says, I'm not waiting. He calls DeMond Williams, sets all this up. I think Sam Levitt's slow playing this, going to Tennessee, maybe to Miami, knowing that if he gives Oregon till middle of next week, win or lose, maybe Dante Moore has a decision and Sam Levitt can come back home. Any thought that I could be onto something there?
You're 100% accurate. I think you can be the first to report that. No.
Breaking. We have a breaking news button then. All right, good.
Boy, I like that. And like, I think what happens with Dante and the Ducks here in the next couple of weeks, like that might be kind of like the first domino to really get everything moving, because it's very obvious that Oregon has a good quarterback, and if he's not here next year, the Ducks are going to be in the market because they don't have anybody that's ready, at least from our vision, on their bench or on their roster that can take them back to this level. So the Ducks are a huge player for a transfer quarterback. Levitt is a pretty highly sought after one. I think he has some ties to the area. I'm not positive on that one. It's kind of worked out well in the past for in-state quarterbacks who come to Oregon to try to, kind of run the Justin Herbert, Joey Harrington route, right?
And if you need some background on him, your friend of mine, Jeff Smith, Sam Levitt is a Westland grad, but the first 3 years were at Westview. So if you need some background for that story when Sam Levitt makes my prediction here come true, call our friend Jeff Smith. I'm sure he can get you some Westview peeps on the phone for some background info.
Hey, I know when I need a Wildcats guy, it's Jeff Smith.
Awesome, man. Hey, Tyson, really appreciate you coming on. Good luck on that big bird to Atlanta tomorrow. If you see Danny, tell him we said hi and we miss him. And enjoy your trip to Atlanta and safe travels there and back. And look forward to reading your stuff in Lookout Eugene-Springfield. Always appreciate you coming on, bud.
Hey, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we have another game to preview next week.
Sounds good. All right, he is Tyson Alger from Lookout Eugene-Springfield. Read him all his work there. All right, when we come back, it's not just football. Oregon women's basketball got a big win over USC last night, taking down the number one team in a dramatic comeback. We'll get into Oregon women's basketball. When we come back, this is Steve Mims. I'm filling in for Danny. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show on KORE, Fox Sports Eugene, and KNCU, Fox Sports Newport. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Eugene, Fox Sports Newport. This is Steve Mims filling in. Always appreciate my good friend Tyson Alger coming along and giving us some great info there. Before we get to basketball, a couple quick football things, Justin. First off, as we talked about the DeMond Williams and the dominoes that were going to fall, Bo Pribula is reportedly now on his way to visit Washington. He's the guy who last year made news when he had to leave Penn State before the end of the playoff because he needed to go into the portal and he'd done a starting job at Missouri. He was pretty good there but got hurt. pretty good quarterback, so that wouldn't be a terrible replacement, but it sounds like he might be leaning up to be the new Washington quarterback. And Oregon got a commitment today from a long snapper, R.J. Todd from Western Michigan. So Oregon's portal haul so far has been punter, kicker, long snapper. So Joe Lorig is getting the special teams taken care of.
Yeah.
We'll see if my theory on Sam Levitt comes true or some of the other offensive ones.
You can't say that they're not taking special teams seriously.
I cannot say that at all. And they are pounding the portal for special teams folks. All right, women's basketball. Huge win last night for Oregon over USC. USC ranked number 21 in the country. USC led early and then led by 18 in the second half. Oregon, I think, outscored them by 16 in the fourth quarter, scored the last 18. Ari Long hit boom, 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 3 straight threes. It was a ridiculous comeback. I was watching it last night and was about ready to tune it out there when it was up 18, and suddenly they'd kind of get within 5, and then USC would get it back up within 10. And then at the end, it was crazy. They came back. USC and freshman Jazzy Davidson kind of fell apart. We're getting a bunch of bad looks, getting some air balls. And huge credit to Kelly Graves. As I was watching the game and the comeback, I was thinking, this is a team that was down like 20 to Michigan, battled all the way back, got a lead in overtime, and lost it in double overtime. As they battled back last night, I thought, gosh, if they get another 20-point deficit, battle back and fall just short, that would be a tough one. But to get that win, I thought was huge for Kelly Graves and company.
Oh, I mean, it's a massive win. Even just looking at the box score and seeing in the fourth quarter 26-8.
Yeah.
And it was a 14-0 run by the team. You mentioned the 3 threes by Ari Long at the end of the game. So momentum-wise, huge victory. And you mentioned that Michigan game. That was a game to me where I felt like before that game, I kind of said this on the show already, that I don't really feel like we knew how good they were. They played UCLA, but UCLA is so good that, getting blown out by UCLA is, you're not going to scoff at that. But against Michigan, they really showed me something. I thought that they, despite losing that game, I'm not a huge proponent of their good loss sort of category, but I think that was a loss that showed me something. And this game absolutely tells me something about this team, that they're really talented. And the one that you mentioned, Katie Fiso, you mentioned Ari Long. The leader in points in this game was Ahisa Tute, and she really is something. And it's
had a globe on her head, it looked like.
Yes, I saw that. It's so weird with her because she's not involved every game, but when she is and she's good, she's really good. I mean, she could be the leading scorer of the team sometimes. Obviously, she was in this game. But she just has this really, she's really physical. And she's not super tall, but she's definitely a forward. And she's got great touch. So I really think, I've been saying this for a while, I really think they have something in Ahisa Tute. Yeah. Now, I don't know when her breakout's going to be or if this is the start of it. But at some point, I think she's going to be a really good basketball player for the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah. And a key win also because up next is number 15 Michigan State at Matthew Knight Arena, which gives another chance at a ranked opponent. Again, if they end up losing that game last night, they're 1-3 in conference play with the number 15 team coming, and you wonder, gosh, if this thing gets to 1-4, how do they dig their way out?
Yeah.
Now suddenly they're 2-2 with a chance to get to 3-2 with back-to-back ranked wins and a quality loss to Michigan, which keeps them. I saw going into last night, Charlie Cream had them as a 10 seed. I think obviously last night moves them up a little bit. If you can beat Michigan, suddenly you're looking at being on that other side of the 8-9, or maybe you're a 7-8 seed at this point. And it's a tough conference, but it was just a huge win and impressive to watch, like I say, especially being on the road and being down by that much. It felt like, if USC gets that thing another bucket or two, they could put them away. But you saw Kelly Graves staying in it. His folks, like I say, they kind of get it down to 8 and get it down to 5. Really impressive to watch last night as they took care of business for that one there. And I think also sweet for him, USC's top player is Jazzy Davidson, who's from Clackamas High School, was one of the top recruits in the country. Mm-hmm. Didn't give a lot of attention to Oregon in the recruiting process for whatever reason. But if you're Kelly Graves, you feel pretty good. You miss out on that one in state. You want to kind of notch as many wins against that team so that people don't look and say, hey, why didn't you get her down here?
Right.
So I thought it was a good win for Kelly, too, to get to 1-0 against Jazzy Davidson.
And USC is a team as well that people are paying attention to, and they were already getting votes for the top 25. So I think that there's a chance that they are either right there, getting so many votes where they're like that next team out, or they might be a ranked team here pretty soon, especially if they can get a victory in the next couple of games, like one of these next two against Michigan State and Iowa. It's a pretty tough gauntlet that you've got going on, and obviously they're coming home and they're going back out to the Midwest. So I think this is a very we're going to find out a lot about this team over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it's a tough stretch, like you mentioned there. USC was, I will point out, obviously the whole story of their season is being without Juju Watkins, so it's a different team than we thought they would be. Last night they were without, I think it was Kennedy Brown, who was one of their other top players. So we're without a couple, but hey, injuries happen in this sport, and you take advantage when you can. And for Oregon, they were able to do that last night. So it was Kennedy Smith was the one who's out for USC last night. But for Oregon to, take advantage, you play who you play, and USC had been blown out and kind of embarrassed by UCLA before. So I know you guys like to talk about this in football. USC's not going to be ranked next week, so it's no longer going to be a ranked win for Oregon. But Michigan State certainly will, and the chance that they get Michigan State coming up next is going to be an opportunity for them to go ahead and get off potentially another ranked win. Like I say, I think could get them up to like that 7-8 on the seed heading in. So, and that's at home. I think it's on Sunday. And that is a home game for Oregon against Michigan State. The men, meanwhile, are heading back home from a difficult road trip. They got the Maryland win, which looked like it was going to be the tougher of the two games. Then they lose to Rutgers, which is a tough one there. This is an 8-7 team, and with home games against Michigan and Michigan State and a road trip to undefeated Nebraska coming up, I don't think, quite honestly, I don't think that the NCAA tournament at large bid is the discussion right now. I think it's A, can Dane Altman keep a streak of 20 win seasons going, and B, does this team finish above 500? Because right now with the gauntlets that's left, like I say, Iowa's good in men's too. I think there's 12 ranked teams in the Big Ten right now, and a lot of them are on Oregon's schedule. This might be a matter of kind of survival for this team. This, as somebody who's covered a lot of Dane Altman teams, this doesn't look to me like one of those teams where you go, man, if they can just kind of get a win or two here, they can kind of turn this thing on, make that run. This looks like a team that just doesn't have the depth right now to be able to kind of put together one of these patented second-half runs that we've seen.
Yeah. No, and it's, I would say, a little confusing because of how much we liked the players that were coming back, and they seemingly were adding pieces around them that really made sense.
The pieces they added just haven't
done it. And I think that it was a very good sign. I was telling Danny about this. Waylon obviously had a very nice performance against Rutgers. He also hadn't done anything basically the rest of the season.
He matched his season total in three-pointers during that game.
Correct. He was 6 of 12. And yeah, like you said, I think this is a team that if you're looking at the NCAA tournament, you might have to win the Big Ten tournament to get in, right? And it's not what we expected. It's not what we're used to seeing with Dane Altman. I still think there's hope for this team. I think the bones are there, but I just think that with the way that Jackson's been injured and he clearly just isn't himself right now, like that's such a huge piece for them. Waylon, we expected him to do more than he's done. Hopefully for them, this is a jumping off point for him. But like you said, they just, you look at this last game, it was 10 points off the bench.
Out of 72 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I counted 72 minutes. They're not going to name the bench. Big E, we talked about, was this guy who was going to be this force. He played 4 minutes. He's been just out of the rotation, basically. So that's where, when you talk about, hey, the bones are there, we thought that the three returning guys, add in Simpkins and Big E to the starting lineup. You got Waylon comes in off the bench, and maybe Phillips makes a jump, and you're 8-9 deep. This team, quite honestly, right now is about, 3-4 deep in terms of guys you can count on, and then a Waylon can pop in with a game here or there, but there's just not any sort of the consistency in the lineup that we've seen in past Dane Altman teams.
Yeah, Devin Pryor's another guy that we thought might take a leap. He's had some moments.
John Stewart hasn't kind of had, again, a lot of moment guys have been on this team. Not a lot of consistent guys, but there have been some moment guys.
Yeah, Takai Simpsons, I think, is a guy that I don't hate his game. I think he's a good fit with what they have in the starting lineup. It just hasn't worked.
Fouled out the other night, which you don't see a lot of guards that foul out.
That's big homecoming performance for him, too.
Yeah.
So he was unfortunate for him about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think they're treading water right now. They just seem like they're gasping for air as much as anything.
Yeah, and like I say, when you got Michigan State coming, Michigan's beating everybody by about 40 right now, and Tom Izzo has a Tom Izzo team, so there is zero doubt that the tough roads are ahead. And if Oregon get this turned around, like I say, we might go into the final week or two of the season trying to see if they can finish above 500. And like you say, at that point, the NCAA tournament's out unless there's a miracle run in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good show. I told you it was going to go quick. We had a lot to talk about today. I'm sure we'll have more tomorrow. I'm back in tomorrow. Danny should hopefully be landed and in Georgia tomorrow. So I'll be back in with you tomorrow. We got Travis Demers, I think, is coming on, and Zach Neal.
Correct.
So it should be a full boat of some Blazer talk and some Duck talk. And, hey, you know what? I heard a good dad joke today.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it quick. I don't have to play the thing.
Okay.
I liked this one. I think Danny will like it if he's listening.
All right.
Here it is. Hiking in your 40s is a great way to meet new people.
Okay.
Today I met 2 paramedics, 3 nurses, a cardiologist, and I nearly met Jesus. All right, this is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Eugene, Fox Sports Newport. We will see you again tomorrow.